Hello there, it is Tristan and Lucy from IGN AU.
Hey, how's it going?
We thought we'd have a little bit of a chat about Beyond Two Souls, also known as Ellen Page, My Life in Haircuts. Just kidding. Beyond Two Souls obviously just come out. Lucy did the review for IGN. Hopefully you've all read her thoughts already. Not an easy game to review, I'd imagine.
No, and I did make mention of that in the sort of opening paragraphs that it was really difficult. It was really difficult because it's sort of hard to hold up a game like that to sort of traditional video game criticism.
Yeah, well, I mean, just on that, I mean, the reason we're talking about it is because there's been a huge it's polarized critics and fans as well. It's got huge spread of scores on across all the sort of major media outlets.
Which I just sort of want to interject just before we move on there. Like, I think that's really cool. Like,
absolutely.
I like.
It's rare. It's rare in gaming.
It is rare, and I think to some degree, I think it's more interesting when you've got a game, on the one hand where it's getting a 9 over at GameSpot, 8 over at Polygon, 6 obviously at IGN, 5 at Edge. I think there's so much more to talk about, and when you've got a game that is so polarizing, I mean, it could have got 7.5s across the board, and I think that would have been doing it a disservice.
Yeah, well, I mean, and continuing on that, it's something that you rarely see in games, but you always see with films or music, I mean, in this instance, is it because the game is quite low on sort of player agency and interaction, and there's more scrutiny on the story and the performances, so basically it is like a big movie.
Well, it's an interactive drama, and I'm a big fan of, and this is one thing a lot of readers have sort of been challenging me about, insofar as I gave it a 6, and a lot of them have said, well, clearly you don't understand what Cage is going for, you don't understand interactive drama, and the thing is, I was a big fan of Heavy Rain.
Same. Yeah.
And I really, I loved Telltale's Walking Dead. I am a big fan of the genre. I wouldn't have tackled their review if I hadn't been. But in this instance, as I sort of made out in my review, well, I just felt that, well, there was a lack of player agency. And I felt that was because it danced around genres so much. And I think with Heavy Rain, because it was a thriller, it sort of allowed those choices. And again, with The Walking Dead, for example, with horror, when you've got these sort of life or death circumstances, those genres are way more suited to that kind of choice or consequence mechanic, whereas this kind of broad, vague...
Well, Beyond never really settles into a genre, does it?
No, it doesn't.
It's kind of schizophrenic in that way.
It is quite schizophrenic, and But again, that's why I did feel like I was an audience member, and I think, to a certain degree, even the positive reviews of the game, as you mentioned, have kind of called that out, but a lot of people have responded to the story a lot more positively than I did. I mean, what did you think? My
main problem with the story is the way that it's told, because this whole, the way that it's flits back and forth between the chronology of Jodie's life. It's almost done it's structured that way just because. Like, I don't think it really serves the story in any meaningful way. I said this in a podcast that we recorded yesterday, and it's not a great example, but just go with me on this. You'd think that this kind of broken sort of narrative has been
non-linear narrative.
Non-linear, thank you. Has been done so many times in film and so on, and done successfully. But in this instance, it doesn't really create any kind of intrigue or mystery, because you're just kind of being shunted from one event to another with no real sort of link.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, the example I said yesterday, which isn't great, but like, it would have been cooler if, like, you know, you're at one point you're adult Jodie and you're having a love scene with the romantic lead, and maybe he notices a scar on your abdomen or something, and then boom, you're back in childhood Jodie being like bullied at school, and you find out how she got the scar. And if there was more of a kind of tangible sort of thread between these events, then I would have been more invested. But as it was just, it was like taking someone's diary, pulling out a bunch of random pages, jumbling them around, and then reading it out. It's just kind of, it didn't work for me.
No, it didn't work for me either. But yeah, I think what has been interesting is that it obviously has worked for some people, and this is why talking about Beyond is so fascinating, and there's been so many sort of dialogues that have started as a result, because people have reviewed it in a way as they would a movie. I mean, I found that I found the story to be heavy-handed. I found it to be typically sort of Cage. I think Cage is a very talented guy, but I find that he lacks discipline when it comes to his writing. I feel that he almost needs a script doctor to come in and just focus him. I found a lot of it.
He can't be caged.
He can't be caged. But I found a lot of it to be sort of very heavy-handed, and I suddenly sort of thought, well, if this was I mean, which it's not, but if this was a movie, would we be so forgiving of some of the broad, you know, cringeworthy dialogue at times? You know, the broader cast, I feel, doesn't. I mean, Ellen Page is great, but
Ellen Page is amazing, but yeah, I agree. The most of the supporting cast are very one-dimensional and not very good. I mean, like I'm not an actor. I've got no idea how to act, but I imagine, you know, acting in a motion capture studio is particularly difficult. You know, there's a reason why Andy Serkis is like the only motion capture actor you can think of.
He's the go-to guy.
Because not everyone can do it. But yeah, Ellen Page is great, but yeah, everyone else is just...
I just sort of felt that, it's been interesting, because obviously some people have found the story to be really profound, which to be completely honest, I didn't expect. Like, I sort of thought, oh God, well, surely everyone is gonna feel the same way as I do, and feel that it was a giant misstep. But no, I mean, a lot of people have found it really profound, and I think that's really interesting. And again, I think that's really cool. Like, I think in this instance, you know, I'm glad that people have responded to the story in that way, because there's sort of so much to talk about. Yeah.
I mean, I guess the other sort of angle to come at it is, does Beyond really need to be a game? You know what I mean?
I think that's a really interesting question, because I really felt like it didn't. But a lot of people have said, well, you know, the interaction that you have throughout the game, the small little choices that you make that sort of influence the minute-to-minute story, you know, make you feel more invested and that sort of thing. There is a certain degree of truth in that, but I think I would have felt more satisfied if it had been shorter. Yeah. And I had been rendered entirely passive, not just, you know, frustratingly passive as I sort of found myself to be, but I liked the idea. I loved Ellen Page's performance, and again, I felt like if it had a in theatre you call it a dramaturg, you know, someone who just comes in and basically,
all right, fancy pants,
objectively tightens, you know, the production. Right. Basically, I feel that it would have been a very interesting movie, but as it stands, because I felt this frustration, you know, I scored it what I scored it.
Absolutely. Any final thoughts?
No, I mean, I think that it's really worth continuing this discussion around Beyond Two Souls, because yes, I did. I wasn't. Again, I'm a big fan of the genre, but I just felt it didn't work for me this time. But I want to hear from you guys. You know, I want to keep, you know, without being abusive, because I know not everyone was happy with my score.
I did apologise afterwards.
But I want to keep talking about it. I want to hear why you guys loved it, what your thoughts are on, you know, how far we can take this concept of an interactive drama. Whether you felt that you were entirely a participant in this game, or whether you felt the same as me. Did you feel that you were passive? Did you feel frustrated at the sort of slightly preposterous nature of the script? I mean, you know, I want to hear from you guys.
Yeah, let us know in the comments below. And thank you for talking to me, Lucy.
No problem. Thank you, Tristan.
She never talks to me off camera.
It's true.